Good day, everyone, and welcome to the second part of our lesson for character design for animation. So, as a review, let's recall that character design aims to make characters engaging, visually stimulating, and memorable. So, last meeting, we discussed the different ways to represent the characters, how to show their age, their health, their, let's say, ethnicity. For today's lesson, we will now focus on the visual design principles that can help create your character. All artists require a strong understanding of line, shape, silhouette, color, and composition. The direct connection between visual design theory and professional practice validates the prominence that character design books place on discussions of character appearance. In short, you need to understand the basics of visual design in order to create a good character design. Now, the very basic or the very foundational element of any design is the line. The line is not only responsible for outlining shapes within a character, but they also help for leading the eye, making connections between intersections with shapes, colors, and communicating movement and directions. So in cartoons, lines are usually used as outlines, but for more realistic character design, lines are abstract consideration of shape definition. So there are four things to consider when we create a line. First is the line thickness, second is the line orientation, third is the line position, and fourth is the line type. So when we say line thickness, this is how we perceive thickness based on the ratio between width and length. So there is a consistent type of thickness and there is an inconsistent type of thickness when it comes to creating a line. So lines are technically one-dimensional and are therefore infinitely thin. So in order to perceive the line, some certain level of thickness has to be shown. So uniform lines can create or can convey rather precision, clarity, honesty, and seriousness, while loose and rough lines can create an impression of triviality, ambiguity, and playfulness. So the maintenance of the consistent thickness or inconsistent thickness can already dictate something about the character. Is this character rough? Is this character more uptight? So it depends on how you use the lines. At the same time, line thickness gives a bit more dimension to your characters. It can imply shadow, it can imply light. At the same time, lines do not need to be continuous. Broken lines can be used in order to create a texture, in order to give depth to a certain side or shape. So horizontal lines suggest restfulness and steadiness. This is because they are parallel to the ground. They can also be used to emphasize or exaggerate the width of a character. At the same time, or on the other hand rather, vertical lines are best used to convey height, balance, and significance. This is because they are perpendicular to the ground or at a 90-degree angle. So if you want to show that something is stable, reliable, steady, focus on adding horizontal lines. While if you want to show that someone is triumphant, um, let's say tall, someone that is reaching high, go for vertical lines. Now for line position, lines that outline a shape these are lines rather that outline a shape, that imply lines such as highlight certain edges or certain curves, and therefore also grouping certain elements together. So the main idea of line position is that it creates a visual connection. Is there a line between, or are you implying a line between the person's hand towards the object is trying to reach for? Are you trying to imply that there is a separation between two people by adding vertical lines between them when it comes to the composition and design? So how you orient and how you position a line can already tell a story. Now that is for lines. Next, we have shapes. So shapes help in making sense of complex scenes through simplification of base elements. So the most common shapes discussed in literature are the circles, the triangles, and the squares. These are the simplest shapes that observers can reduce an image into. So by making sense of complex scenes through the simplification of base elements is an important aspect of perception and cognition. So while these are the basic shapes that we are looking for, they or rather the character does not have to conform to the geometric ideal. They don't have to be a perfect circle or a perfect triangle. They just have to imply the shape. They can be a loosely interpreted version of the shape. So if you're going with circles, let's have a picture here. This can imply a certain playfulness, childlike energy, and even innocence. And this is because the lack of the sharp edges does not make them seem like a threat. Meanwhile, triangles, which have a more sharp point, shows dynamism, movement, and speed. At the same time, triangles can also imply aggression and hostility because triangles look like they're pointing at something. So parang may aggression towards that person. And because of the angle of each sides, mas pointy siya compared to a square. So it seems more sharp, more dangerous. But at the same time, um, it looks like something has a clear path kasi parang tip ng arrow. Next is the square. So this connotes ideas such as strength and stability. So among the three shapes, the square has the most quote unquote stable um, form. So if you draw characters with a square shape in mind, then this character can imply strength or stability. Now you can mix and match different shapes. You can mix and match a square and a circle to show that this person is strong but still has this playful energy. You can mix a square and a triangle to show that this person is a stable yet very directed person. So it's really a matter of how well you can communicate the character through the basic shapes. Next, we have silhouette. So the silhouette is used to ensure that the complete outline of a character can be clearly recognized from a range of angles and different poses. So there are 5 things to consider when creating your silhouette. First is the recognizability. Second is the hierarchy. Third, functionality. Fourth, metaphor. And fifth, dynamism. So recognizability dictates whether or not the silhouette makes the character distinctive. Are their silhouettes unique? Do they stand out from the silhouette alone? Now, is the character sufficiently distinctive from the silhouette alone, or do they blend in with the other characters? If ever your character is not recognizable through the silhouette, then you might have to change the character design a bit. Your character or the silhouette of the character has to stand out because it shows that you utilized your shapes well. Next is the hierarchy, how visual elements are used to infer the importance of particular characters in relation to the other characters. So you can use contrast, repetition, and alignment of elements to build hierarchy. For example, let's imagine the silhouette of Gru from Despicable Me and the rest of the minions. You can see from height alone that there is a hierarchy when it comes to the contrast of the vertical alignment. Gru is the tallest silhouette there compared to the rest of the minions. So it implies that within a hierarchy, Gru is higher up. At the same time, because we see that there is um, repetition of the basic shapes of the minions. Of course, they're all cylindrical looking. Medyo may iba mas shorter, may iba na taller, may iba na more rounded. But because of the repetition of the basic shapes, it implies that these characters are united in some way. Next, we have functionality. We consider the intrinsic functionality of the design when it comes to the silhouette. So the clothing, armor, and equipment that a character wears can imply how well they can move through a space or how solid they are in a certain area. So if your silhouette shows that this person has a sword and everything, make sure to consider the balance. If they are balancing the sword on one shoulder, then make sure there is a bit of a contrast when it comes to the balancing of weight on the other side of the body. Next is the metaphor. When you look at the silhouette, you have to determine if they are trying to imply an existing element in real world. If this metaphor looks like a flower, is this person connected to nature? If this person or if this silhouette has looks like fire, then is this person of a fiery personality? Is this person literally made of fire? Case in point, Flame Princess from Adventure Time. Her silhouette stands out because her hair is an actual flame. So if we just cut her silhouette out, like we remove the internal details, we can see that, okay, from the design itself, this is something based of um, the flames or fire na kingdom or someone na with a fiery personality. And we can say na yes, nga na gid si Flame Princess. Lastly, we have dynamism, how silhouette shifts as perspective and character changes. So if you want to create an animation of a character growing old, their initial silhouette would be of a short, young person, and as they grow older, their silhouette grows taller, grows more confident, grows more solid. But as they continue to age, their silhouette would start to, let's say, thin down ba? Maybe they'll start slouching, they'll start relying on a walking cane. These changes in life should be represented in the silhouette. It's weak character design when in order to imply that a person grew old, you just added wrinkles. You have to show the dynamism in their development through the silhouette as well. Now, the silhouette can also be used to show that this person shifted from one alignment to another. Let's say, for example, Prince Zuko. If you look at his silhouette from the original or from the first few seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender, we can see that he has a lot of sharp edges. Medyo ano yung silhouette niya, mas out there, so to speak. Yung mga poses niya, like may solid stand siya talaga. And he has a lot, yan, like, he has a lot of sharp edges. Moving on to, I believe it was season 3, if I remember correctly, of Avatar: The Last Airbender, when Zuko did a complete 180, changed his viewpoint on the world, became part of the gang. His silhouette became softer. Yes, there are still a lot of sharp points and edges. You can't really take that away from the Firebender design, but it's now supplemented with curves from his loose clothing, from his thicker hair, and from his overall stance. He's not as aggressive compared to the original few seasons, or not really original, the initial few seasons, but he still has his identity as a firebender. So we also have an example here from Coraline. So as we can see from the silhouette itself, we can already identify the different types of characters. So we know it's the dad, the mom, Coraline, YB, those two old ladies from downstairs, and that circus performer from upstairs. I forgot the name. This is just an early silhouette sketch of the characters of Coraline. But even then, these characters already stand out. We know that they have their own personalities. We know that they are unique in characteristic or in personality because in appearance itself, they already stand out. Like if we look at the silhouette of the person on the right, the circus performer, he already stands out. He is a contrast of a big circle and then he has long, thin limbs. So it raises the question, ooh, what is he? What is he about? The long legs imply that this person probably moves around a lot, but the roundness of his torso implies na he's probably a friendly person. Actually, that's also one thing to consider. The neighbors are full of curves. They are very rounded, so to speak, while the parents are a lot of sharp lines. So Coraline falls somewhere in between. So while she does not have a lot of curves in her character design, she is more simple. So from looking at the lineup itself, we can imply that the main character is probably Coraline, the simplest silhouette there. Now, it's not to say that your main character has to be um, simple or boring, but in the case of Coraline, the point is she's surrounded by a lot of interesting individuals. So her simplicity adds contrast to the environment. So next we have colors. So colors actually reflect how humans see color rather than how color actually exists in nature. That's why you might know someone who says that this thing is orange, while another one would say this thing is red, but then you would say this thing is actually red orange. So even if we can agree that there is a certain range of colors that we can agree on, maybe the details or the particulars of the color would divide the opinion. So there are three major components of colors: the hue, value, and saturation. So the hue is what we know as the color itself. So this is red, blue, green, yellow, orange, the color mismo. Next is the value. This is from uh, lightness to darkness. So how much you add white or black to the color itself. And last is the saturation, how brightly or dull a color is. So this ranges from very bright to gray. So that's the difference between value and saturation. The value goes into black or into white, while saturation goes into gray or out of gray. So I'm pretty sure you guys know all of this. You guys have taken color theory, so let's just move on. So this section is probably a quick review of color theory na. So even though you know your colors, your hues, your saturations, your values, it does not matter if you don't know how to um, create color relationships. So colors are interpretations of a color based on hue, value, and saturation. And usually colors have no universal rules that linked it to a meaning. Usually colors have cultural connotations or cultural significance. So, for example, for us, I believe it was for us, we wear black to a funeral, but for other cultures, they wear white. So it's not to say that one culture is wrong, one culture is right. It's just a matter of linking meaning. So when you color your character, you also have to consider the meanings behind the color. If you want to color them with a lot of gray colors, then that will imply that they are a pretty dull or boring person. Or maybe they're sad. If you color them with a lot of saturated colors, then this person has energy. If you color them with a saturated yellow, then this is a very energetic, happy person. If you color them with a bright blue, this is an energetic but calm or reliable person. So the meanings now vary according to your choice of colors. Now there are various color relationships. You might know analogous, monochromatic, triadic, complementary, ano ba yung iba, split complementary, and etc. My rule of thumb usually when it comes to choosing colors is that I pick one color combination. Like let's say let's go with analogous. So we have red, orange, yellow. Choose one saturated color. So let's say I want orange to be the saturated color. Next is choose the shadow. I want red to be the shadow. And then next is choose the highlight color. So with that, let's say yellow is the highlight color. So with that, you can add a color scheme to your character but not have them be an eyesore. Shift around with the values. Let's go back here. Shift around with the values and the saturation. If your character is too saturated, it would be hurtful to the eye. If your character is too dark when it comes to the value, they wouldn't stand out or the color wouldn't stand out. So mix and match a bit. Maybe this character will have bright a bright orange shirt, a dull dark red let's say pair of shorts, and then maybe they have a very light blonde hair. So their color scheme would follow the analogous color scheme, but it would not be let's say medyo may balance naman in the other factors or the other components of color. So I do have a video that I want to show you guys. I'll just link this, or maybe just look for this thumbnail here. I think it's about a Demon Slayer having good character design. I really recommend it, especially if you're a fan of the Kimetsu no Yaiba. So maybe you would enjoy the content. And if you're not a fan, then the discussion about their character design still holds true. It still showcases rather good points when it comes to designing your characters, especially when it comes to maintaining conformity or uniformity while showing their individual characters or characteristics rather. So let's sum it up. There are three major components for a good character design. First is the silhouette. Use shape language to create meaning through the lines, curves, and angles. Second is the color palette. Choose the colors to invoke emotions in the audience. And third is exaggeration. You enlarge certain features to emphasize them and as well as to create dynamic gestures. All of this, plus also consider the way that your character would act, the way that your character, or rather where your character grew up, how your character navigates the world. Those are things to consider as well. But if we talk purely about design, then focus on these three. Animating your character, however, is a different topic entirely. That is why you have to consider their psychology, their social standing. What ethnicity are they supposed to be? What gender are they supposed to be? Those are things that will then show up as you animate them. But for the sake of the topic of character design for animation, those are the three things that you have to focus on. So that is all for today's lesson. If you have any questions or concerns, do feel free to contact me through Teams, and I'll see you guys next week for our second lesson from Module 2.